Fady, I want to dive into your role in the expert, and I don't know this part of the business. I'm just making an assumption in here, based on my experience by working with other organizations that have an export division. And normally, the export team is consists of very few people. Sometimes it's just the export manager themselves, and then they go and build a network, an external network, a network with other markets, and then slowly but surely nurture that, and then find ways to drive the business on an international level. I guess here, my question to you is, what type of a structure maybe you started with, and what type of a structure you are with right now, and trying to kind of gauge your working with an internal team, or is your team mainly in all these wonderful countries where you have whether direct sales, direct contact, people on the ground, or you're working through third-party distributors?
Okay, so in general, Gojo Industries, we were not the P&G of the world and the conglomerate of international. So we had always a hybrid model, and when I started with the company, it was a very small hybrid model that we've grown in the last 20 years. And the model was basically, you rely on some distributors around the world that you and your team, you keep going out and try to find those distributors. And then you start putting boots on the ground and you put in companies within areas. So the model that we have now is, and the team consisted of about 72 people. And some of them are spread out all around the world: Canada, Mexico, Australia, Japan, and there's some in Europe too. The 72 are excluding Europe, but some of them are on the ground in those countries, and some of them are locally here in Ohio, and they all support international distributors and international customers. And the model works where the local boots on the ground work with the distributors directly, and they look for support from corporate for any resources. And then the markets that we don't have anybody, representing us, then we deal directly with them from corporate.
Right. So when you look at your organization today, and getting to where you are, what do you feel have been some of the challenges that you have faced, whether it's people challenges, structural challenges, or any type of a challenge? If you were to look at the biggest hurdles and what lessons you could share with us from those challenges and overcoming them, Fady.
So a couple of different challenges. You've got what we call the cultural challenges, and then you got what we call the business challenges. Mm-hmm. So the business challenges, as you have known me, because I've been with Gojo for 30 plus years, back then, the company was not well known internationally. Everybody here in the US knew Gojo, then they got to know Purell, but internationally, we were still what we call the new kid on the block. We were the new company. We were the company from the US that nobody knew about. So the first challenge was not to assume that everybody knew your company, and you had to build some of your business about that assumption, and then teach them and let them know who we are. So that's one of the on the business side. On the cultural side, it's always important when you're dealing with different cultures and different languages to allow time for communication twice than you normally do when language is not a barrier. So when language is not a barrier, but when language is a barrier and you have culture that's different, you have to be more attentive and more in tune with what's going on. And I always tell my sales team, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You listen twice, you talk once. And that's something you have to learn to listen, because if somebody English is not their first language and they're translating as they're speaking, you have to pay attention to what they're saying, because they're trying to give you as much understanding as they can. And you have to try to then translate what they're saying and then then respond to them. So it's very important to listen to your customers, listen to your sales team that are overseas, listen to your distributors, and try to, don't be afraid to answer the question with another question. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you're trying to say. I didn't quite get what is this what you were asking me? And then facilitate that and not assume that the first thing that comes out of their mouth is exactly what they were saying. And then, especially when you start getting into a little bit of a conflict situation. So culturally, you have to do the language, you have to do, and you have to be open to adaptation because of the cultures are different.
So I love this. I think you've brought in a really nice angle. One is the people don't know who we are, and today I think a lot of organizations that want to expand sometimes might have the wrong assumptions. Starting into meetings or conversations with the same positional power or perceived power that they might have from any local players. Yet. That is not the case. So in terms of building that relationship, building that trust, and giving an opportunity for the other party to get to know maybe not just the brand, but the value of the people, your values, the way you do business, your reputation, what you stand for, and then finding a way to see is, how do we then, coexist? How do we bring who we are and who you are together, and we make this even a more successful partnership. So that is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's very important from a coexisting. You, as an individual, you're trying to establish a relationship with a distributor or a customer. You don't want to come across that you're the one who knows everything and you're coming to impose or trying to sell them or trying to give them what what you know, because you don't want to come as this American, English, whatever, Lebanese arrogant that's coming to sell me something. You want to come across that, I'm a person and I have some knowledge, but I'm here to help you with that. I'm not here to impose, and I'm not here to tell you how it needs to be done. I'm here to tell you how it was done in certain countries, but let's see how it can work because you're the expert in that country.
Right. I love what you're saying because a lot of time there is a some of the principal organizations I've worked with that you look at international as the dumping ground, if you know what I mean. Whenever you stop growing in your local markets, let's just find new places to simply ship stuff and help us hit our targets. That is one approach. I think, again, if I might say, a lot of the smaller organizations find that just making, selling the quantity might be appealing in the short term. But in the long term, if you send the quantities to the wrong markets and you have the wrong partners on the ground, you can end up doing a lot more damage to the brand and to the entire, goodwill that you have built. And I guess one thing that I really, makes music to my ear is the concept of partnership, the concept of choosing the right distributor, the concept of even being aware of the lack of potential communication gaps due to cultural and linguistic capabilities, so that you have double complexity. And I think today the message that maybe I want to highlight here is that once you enter into a distribution relationship with an international player, right, it needs to be an ongoing relationship, and it's something where you gotta set a common goal, a common objective. What are we going after on both sides, and then what can we do to help you out, and what can you do to bring this mission and vision on to life in your local market. So maybe a question here around selecting those relationships. And, when you go into a market, it's a clean slate. How do you, are there any tips from entering multitudes of different markets, that you tend to gravitate towards a certain type of structure or certain type of psychographic within a certain organization, the demographic, psychographic. So what do they value and things like that. That would help you in selecting and choosing the right partner, Fady.
Yeah. So let me back up a little bit. It all starts from the mission of the company. If the mission of the company is very, say, centric into growing into one country, in the US, then you're right. This is where the branding they don't care about it internationally. They'll dump the products and they, like you said, they'll sell some products here and there, and that can hurt them in the long run. So if you follow the mission, and the mission says, look, we want to be the global, leader in that industry. So then you have to start looking at customers and distributors and partners that start sharing some of your same vision, mission, and objectives. So when we start looking at a partner, whether it's a distributor or a customer, or even hiring people at the local level, we start saying, think globally and act locally. You have to act as a local. The problems around the world are the same. So you think global. The pandemic has taught us, look how fast COVID spreads. Everybody had the same problem, patients dying, patient needed ventilations, people can't go out, people in the restaurants can't eat out. So the problems were the same, but the way you give the solution might be a little bit different based on the country and what is the structure of the country, not just from structure of logistics and building, but even the culture and how they do business and how they interact within pandemic. Some government are more stricter than others when there's a pandemic like that. So you have to be aware of these things. And that's where, and not just in pandemic, in normal days, you have to look at a partner that can share some of the vision and some of the missions that you're trying to accomplish. If your mission is, for example, for us is health and well-being solution, and if somebody's selling, let's say, cigarettes, and nothing against cigarettes, but that doesn't work from our standpoint. So you have to look at some partners that have some commonality from what you're trying to accomplish from a mission and a vision.
Awesome. I think this is very insightful. And today, many individuals sometimes might have smaller organizations where maybe their mission and vision might not be fully aligned or fully developed. They might know what makes them tick on the inside, yet highly recommend maybe doing, there is mission and vision exercises you can go to help uncover what you are all about, where you're going. And the more you structure that, and they say, there's a quote out there that says, thoughts are things have gravity, and gravity attracts. So the moment you can verbalize your mission vision, so thoughts are things have gravity, and gravity attracts, you then align, you create a path in which people with similar values, similar beliefs, similar goals start lining up, and there you are, getting your potential partners, and then it's all about building that relationship and then seeing what works and what doesn't.